Subnautica finally released on January 23rd, 2018, offering you almost infinite freedom in exploring oceans of planet 4546b. In-game you find yourself stranded on an alien, mostly ocean planet with nothing more than a lifeboat, a pair of short fins and a vast ocean around you teeming with life. So, understandably, you jump into water and dive, looking for anything that will help you stay alive and admire all the alien fauna around you. Your initial capabilities to stay underwater are very limited, but as the game progresses you are forced to go deeper and make better equipment that extends the time you can spend underwater. At this point, the experience for me started to differ quite noticeably from what I was expecting from a game mostly about diving, because in Subnautica you are not only able to dive very deep and resurface in a matter of seconds, but the diving gear you're using allows only for very unrealistically short dives. So, as a person who has some experience with diving, I couldn't help but ask myself, is diving in Subnautica anywhere close to a real thing? Well, to answer that question, we must first take a look at how diving looks in reality. When you dive, be it in salt or fresh water, you have basically two options. You can either hold your breath, aka free dive, or use a scuba gear. Both methods offer distinctive advantages and have different limitations, so let's take a look at those. Freedivers don't use any source of air while diving and rely only on their lung capacities to stay underwater, while a regular person without special training can hold his or her breath for anywhere between 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Current world record in static apnea or breath holding is 11 minutes 35 seconds and belongs to Stefan Mifsud. Alex Ferreira was able to hold his breath a bit longer for 24 minutes and 4 seconds after inhaling pure oxygen. That is pretty ridiculous. Usual diving times for freedivers are a bit shorter than that, obviously, and as far as depth is concerned, freedivers can go below 30 to 40 meters without much trouble, with current world record being set at 214 meters below the surface by Herbert Nietzsche. In Subnautica, however, your initial ability to stay underwater is rather limited and well below what an experienced freediver could achieve. To extend it, you must craft O2 tanks of different sizes, with 3 tank capacities being available, each extending your time underwater by 30, 90 and 180 seconds respectively. The game does not make it very clear if you're using standard air or some sort of oxygen mixture, and it seems like you have only one mixture available to you and you are using that mixture for all the depths. Clearly, you are not freediving then, and you are using some sort of scuba gear to help you breathe underwater. We will assume here that the planet 4546b you are stranded on is very much like Earth in terms of gravity, pressure and atmosphere. Because of that, there is a number of problems and reasons why you would not be able to dive like that in real world. So let's have a look at how scuba diving works in reality. Scuba gear allows you to stay underwater much longer because it supplies you with steady flow of breathable gases. The amount of time you can stay underwater during one dive can be very long, especially when compared to what you can do in Subnautica. Recreational divers can go as deep as 40 meters and usually stay underwater for less than 2 hours, but professional divers or technical divers can go much deeper and stay much longer. Current world depth record for scuba was set by Ahmed Gabra at 334 meters. Diving at such great depths is not only extremely challenging, and divers are facing a whole host of dangers such as oxygen poisoning, nitrogen narcosis, high pressure neurological syndrome or compression arthralgia, and obviously the well-known decompression sickness or the bends. Breathing just regular air would result in nitrogen narcosis at a depth of about 40 meters and oxygen poisoning below 55 meters. So, to counter that, helium is added to reduce nitrogen content in the breathable mix. This, however, exposes divers to high-pressure neurological syndrome at even greater depths, and that can have fatal effects, as was in the case of Dr. Guy Garman in 2015 when he attempted to beat the world record. Some researchers suggest that nitrogen could be replaced by hydrogen to increase diver safety. But even if you successfully overcome all those dangers and reach your target depth, you cannot simply emerge right away, as you would in Subnautica. Doing so would cause decompression sickness, with effects ranging from mild pain in your joints and dizziness to cardiac arrest and death. During a dive, increased external pressure causes nitrogen from air to dissolve in your tissues. If the amount of dissolved nitrogen becomes greater than the limit your body can safely process, During quick ascent, the nitrogen will fizzle in your tissues, causing the bends. To avoid that, scuba divers are forced to spend some time at certain depths doing so-called decompression stops to reduce the amount of excess nitrogen and safely emerge. In the case of Ahmed Gabra, emerging from the record depth of 334 meters or 1090 feet took him about 14 hours. This is a very significant amount of time, as you can see, and divers that are routinely performing tasks at great depths are actually not going through the decompression procedure after each dive, but rather stay and live in pressurized habitats for days or even weeks. This not only increases their safety, but also reduces the need for decompression to only one after their shift is completed. This type of diving is called saturation diving. So, as you can see, diving in Subnautica is rather far from realistic, both in terms of time you spend underwater, as well as in terms of overall diving mechanics or gas mixtures you are using. One thing that the game does sort of right is to reduce tank efficiency at greater depths. All values are of course wrong, because breathing compressed air at 100 meter depth would simply kill you before you would reach it, and there are no arbitrary limits of 100 and 200 meters in real life, but as you descend you are effectively breathing more and more compressed air and therefore using more of it with each breath. However, unrealistic as it may be, Subnautica has been able to capture one very important aspect of diving: feeling of unlimited freedom. You are in an environment that is completely different to land, surrounded by alien species, and you are able to move in every direction. Diving is a wonderful experience, despite its many dangers, and the games show that very well. Forsaking realistic technical and physiological limitations allows you to focus more on the action, which in my opinion is acceptable in video games. So, if you haven't played Subnautica yet, I would highly recommend checking it out, and most definitely I would recommend getting into diving too. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider liking it. If you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I would also like to thank Joel and Shirax and all my patrons on Patrons for your continuous support, which is very important to me. My name is Mark Frim, and I will see you next time.